one of the things that kind of threw me the first time I ran into it was the idea that someone could be worried about disappointing their midwife. That
Mm.
if they didn't go along with what they wanted to do, or if for some reason they weren't capable of having a vaginal birth, that they would be letting their midwife down. And I'm sitting here thinking, I never really considered that I might be letting my OB down,
Yeah,
because my
that's
OB was
interesting.
like,
I thought of
yeah, I mean, my OB had not given me any strong preference for how I should birth.
that. Right.
So the idea that you could be surrounded by people who are really invested in you having a particular outcome is therefore everything they say to support you to that end automatically feels so much more valid and valuable or valued than something that somebody else might say, like, wow, you're really going overdue. Aren't you worried about your baby? You considering going for an induction in the hospital? And they look at you like, oh, how could you say such a thing? All of my friends, my midwife, my birthing community, they are all about me having this vaginal birth. I really want to have it. I just can't imagine going to a hospital, because all these people who are invested in my birth are going to just feel so disappointed in me. How could you wish such a thing on me? And it's like, I mean, that's what part of what they feel, and it's not something they'll ever tell you straight up. And therefore you're going to be having this conversation where you think I'm showing support and concern for you because I want you to have, you know, a safe and healthy birth, and they're hearing you're going against everything I believe, therefore you're going against me, and they're feeling completely unsupported by you.
Well,
And
like I said earlier about, or maybe Danielle said about, if they're saying that, they're also saying, I don't think you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
yeah,
I hate to interrupt
there's
you.
the two sides. Yeah. Unfortunately.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's no wonder that they complain about fear mongering and people being unsupportive, because they are feeling attacked. They can feel attacked on so many levels, personally, on their belief system, on the birthing community they're relying on, and vice versa, is relying on them to do this thing that they said they would do. And you're sitting here thinking, I want everything to be okay for you. I want you to be okay. I want the baby to be okay. I want a good outcome. And they're just hearing, you don't think I can do this. You just, it's like you're just writing off everything I've spent 9 months working towards. And it's like, and they're not saying it. So there's no way for you to sit there and say, no, I would love for you to have your vaginal birth, your home birth of your dreams, your midwife, everything there. But if it doesn't work out, I still support you. I just want everything to work out for you. And you're just saying, is there a plan B? Basically what you're asking them, is there a plan B? And what they're saying is, a plan B is a complete betrayal of everything I've worked towards. And so it would take, I think, it would take someone with a personal connection that they would actually listen to for a significant amount of time for them to sit there and go, oh, this person really is concerned and they have their own point of view. It may not be mine, but I should consider it. You don't have to agree with someone to talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you from being in that and doing that stuff, it's kind of weird, but it is exactly what you're saying. There's this level of, you're going natural. So it has to be so extremely natural. when somebody was almost would ask me like about like what my transfer plan was or what the emergency plan was or what would happen if things go wrong at home or that kind of thing, um a lot of it goes back to like, don't worry, I don't need pain relief, I'm good, I can handle pain, I have a high pain tolerance, because it's something that's like been told in the community is that the only ones that make it to the hospital are for pain relief, and those are the ones that they just couldn't handle it. And so that's what you think. You think there is no backup plan, there is no transfer plan, there's no plan B, because nobody's going to the hospital other than the ones that just couldn't handle the pain. And I think I really only had like one person that was, there was a lady that she ended up having C-section with her two girls. And so she was really concerned about me needing a C-section and being at home. Like oddly enough, she's also from Ethiopia, so she had a different system of than a lot of like Americans. So she understood things, and she tried to explain it like the best that she could of what happened. Even though she didn't even really understand either, but she was like, hospital was the best place to be. And so that was her biggest concern, was when I was pregnant, she was really worried about the location of if something went wrong, are you gonna be getting care? Are you gonna be getting treatment? Are they gonna, I was like, yeah, there's a hospital right here, and yeah, we have it planned out, whatever. And she was just very like, okay, as long as you know where you're gonna go and what's gonna go on and how you're gonna get there.
Other than the Ethiopian lady, of course you had your mother, your family. Did you, how did they view what you were planning on doing?
Everybody I think was, actually most people were pretty supportive of having a home birth. I know that sounds like kind of funny. A lot of people don't know about it. That was one thing. People don't really know very much about it unless they know somebody that had a home birth. My family was like, sure, like my mom had a bunch of kids, so she was like, yeah, as long as you have, you know where you're going, of like the hospital you're going to go to. And we were also told, though, like even my mom was duped too, because my mom had met her and all this stuff. She really had us believing she was a nurse midwife and that she had been like checking everything. So that was another thing, is that my mom had this level of confidence thinking that I had a nurse. So she was like, she's getting medical care with her appointment. So and that's what the big thing was. And what she had told us was, if I see anything off, like you're going to go to the hospital, I have a backup doctor, all these things. So this is why we actually hired her and not one of the other midwives here in town, was because she had us believe she was a nurse midwife. She had more education training and was in with the hospitals. Like she was connected, all this stuff. So we trusted and believed that was a real thing. And so that's why my mom was okay, I think, with having a home birth. Because even my mom was like, it's not always the best having a baby at home, but we have medical care now that things like, if you're being monitored properly, you can be aware of stuff to transfer to a hospital. So I don't think we ever really thought about it in terms of being in labor, but we always thought things would come out before I did all my testing, all that stuff. So it was always like, there was a plan, there was whatever. I didn't know it was bogus. I didn't know that she was lying to us about everything, and she didn't have any of this stuff in order or whatever. But it sounded great, and it would have maybe been great if she really was one, because maybe she would have actually sent me to the hospital when there's no fluid. So that's why I think my mom was okay with it. For the most part, everybody was like, cool, whatever. Like guys were cool with it. They don't know nothing about birth, so they're like, that's cool. I had a lot of guys like, cool, you having a baby at home, like whatever, and most, like I worked at a casino, so I knew a lot of people, And you have to remember, like a lot of people come from Mexico and come here. So they do have babies at home in Mexico in certain smaller areas and stuff like that. And they have kind of like midwives, but they're called something different. I don't think they're actually called midwives, but I don't know what they are. But I don't want to get in that because I don't know much about it. But I do know they do have babies at home, because I've heard of some of the guys were saying like, yeah, my grandma had my dad and everybody had, like I heard some stories from some of the people here. So they were like, yeah, it's normal, it's natural, and that's what you think is it's normal, it's natural, we've been doing it forever, and and you just don't really think much about it. And I was healthy, and I was in my 20s, so like I was what everybody called textbook. Like even meeting with like doctors and everything, they all referred to me as textbook. I had like the perfect textbook pregnancy of like no complications, no issues. Things just I just flowed right along of what I was supposed to be, and it just didn't happen the way that it was supposed to happen, I guess, in that way. But there was indicators of things that were red flags way before we ever got to the initial labor. And exactly in a weird way, there's like this weird thing about disappointing your midwife, because now your midwife is like your friend. You've spent all these months and all this time, and you text on the phone, and you're like connected to them like personally, and and intimately in a certain way. And so yeah, it's this weird, you have this weird bond with them, because it's like, I don't want to say it being like close to like a medical person that knows the answers for you, but that's how it's supposed to be, is that they know what's going on, and they know, whatever, and they can take care of you, is what it's supposed to be. But this weird relationship. But there was a lot of stuff, and she just never said anything. But looking back, yeah, I only had the Ethiopian lady that was like very concerned about the transfer plan because of her own experience, where she went to have her baby in hospital with an OB, and she said, all I remember was I was screaming. I just was screaming. And she ended up in an emergency C-section, which apparently her screaming meant baby got stuck. And so they went and they took the baby in. I didn't understand at the time because she didn't know how to explain it very well, but I learned later, like after my son died, of what happened and stuff like that. And she's very active, and she was young at the time when she had her kids and everything. So there was, again, you don't know. So it's not just genetics, you know what I mean? It could literally happen to anyone. That stuff just happens. And that's, I don't know. And I hate that, like looking back I wish I had somebody a little bit more, but even my friends were all like, oh, cool, that's cool. And some people, it's like a badge of honor. There's like this total respect for you doing it in this El natural way. And now I hate it, because doctors are like, you can go and not have an epidural. And I hate that now, because at the time I thought that they're going to force medicine on me, and they're going to make me have pain relief. Nobody's making you have pain relief. Like, that's not how it works, And even sadly, I even know nobody's going to make you have a C-section either. Like nope. That I know that, unfortunately, like, and I hate saying that, because I obviously I need one, but it's the truth. If they'll tell you, you still have to sign off, or you still have to agree, unless you pass out or something. Yeah. Like other than that, like if you're aware, they still need
I mean, there's memes out there, people are like, I'm so badass, I had a home birth, I had a natural childbirth, I'm so badass. And part of me is like, yeah, that's a lot to go through voluntarily. No one forcing you to go through that. My mother never used it, and she had 9 babies, as far as I know, without any pain relief. She's badass, but that has nothing to do with birthing babies. But it's like, yeah, I kind of get that, the appeal at that, really, the badge of honor. I can't argue with it. No, it is pretty impressive to voluntarily go through that. I mean, I wouldn't do it, because I was in labor, and they were like, oh, you're only at a 4. We usually don't give a epidural so soon. But there were signs that things were not going well to begin with. So they went ahead and gave me the epidural, and man, that sucker kicked in. It was like, holy crow. It's like, there's only been a few times when it's kind of like the clouds parted, the sun came out, and the angels were singing. Epidural was one. The other one was when I had a dental abscess, and they finally they numbed me up good. I was like, yeah, the opiates are okay, but not being able to feel any pain whatsoever is so much better.
I was a little euphoric when I got mine too. Just like going from a lot of pain to no pain at all is very nice.
I mean, people are like, oh yeah, after you birth your baby, you have this incredible high. And I'm like, yeah, I can imagine that it would feel pretty good, wouldn't it? I mean, almost as good as an epidural.
That's the thing I always think is really funny is that one reason that a lot of people give, like, I don't want to get an epidural because I just want to be really present with what's happening and really aware. And I remember what I was doing before I got my epidural, and it was not being really present and aware around me. And then I got it, and I was like, I could think again. And I'm really, actually, that's one of the reasons I was really glad I got it, was because then when things started to go wrong, I had like all that extra brain space to use for making good decisions for me and my baby, instead of, hang on, I gotta get through this contraction before we can talk about if my baby is in danger right now.
Yeah, I mean, Marissa's story, I don't know if you saw it, but she had a first precipitous labor and they could not get an epidural on board for her. So she basically had what, like 2 hours of labor in the hospital before she had her baby. I mean,
Yeah.
and she was not, I don't think the word present is not something you could use to describe what shape she was in. She said she was very, very grateful for her OB, who seemed to know what to do and how to support her every step of the way. And I'm sitting here thinking, thank goodness for that OB, because I would not know what to do with someone who was like thrashing and screaming in the throes of like very intense labor. I'm like, yep, no, I don't think I'd be any help. I just sit there and hold on to you.
Well, they have you believe, like, I remember when I was looking for my midwife, and I didn't have a midwife yet. I went to meet with my friend's midwife. She was having a baby at the same time, and she'd already had a baby with this one midwife. And we went to this circle. This is how she did her appointments. She had a circle where all the pregnant women would meet, and they'd all hang out, and their kids would run around and stuff. And she would take one at a time and check everybody like right next to you. And I was like, this isn't for me. But I remember I wasn't completely in yet for home birth. Okay, so I was like on the fence. I was like, oh, okay, if I find a midwife, sure. But if I find a doctor, sure. It was kind of one of those. And I just remember them saying, like experiencing labor and going through the pains and all this stuff, like, what would you do for your baby? So there's kind of like this level of like, what would you do for your baby? And you think about that. And like, even if you're pregnant, you're like, what would I do for my baby? I'd do anything for my baby. This is my baby. And so you kind of like, they have like this thing of, and that's kind of probably how they get through the pain with no pain relief, is they think like, what would I do for my baby? This is worth it. It's all worth it. Every pain is worth it for my baby. And so I do remember that of all of them talking. And that was one of the things that they said. And I do have a higher pain tolerance. I can get injured sometimes and not even notice that I'm injured. So I have like a different, I'm a little, but I am aware at the same time. So I don't know how I would have done with labor if I would have been, everybody figured I was going to be easy. I met a lot of midwives and doulas and a bunch of people when I was pregnant. They were like, she's going to be the easiest person through labor, because I mean, I did hypnobirthing. I was doing yoga. I could do like all this stuff while I was pregnant, and I was giant. I gained like 50 pounds. And so I was like, I'm all super like flexible pregnant, whatever that means, because it's not like you're not flexible pregnant. Even if you're doing yoga, you're really not, you're like wobbly. So I mean, they were like, it's going to be so easy. She can just like breathe right through it. She like, that's how it was. You're just going to breathe through it all and stuff. So, I mean, I really like, I got the long con, I guess you could say, of the whole thing. Of it was one of those, like, I was like, yeah, this is going to be so easy for me and whatever. And it's not like that at all. It's like, I did all the crap and it didn't work out. So I can't even imagine all the other stuff.